I'm going to make a video. This is sort of like a part 2 to my video I did on my rifles. It's sort of similar, but this is a video on my top 3 handguns, like, of all time, at least in my personal experience. And I've had like a whole bunch of handguns. I mean, I've had just about every type of handgun out there, and this is from my personal opinion, the shooting that I've done over the years and everything, and these would be my pick. Like, even with Glocks, like, I know that there's a lot of, like, people who are, I'll just say, into Glocks, and they think it's like the king of everything. And I've had a few of them. I've even had a surplus Glock, and it's just got its drawbacks, and it's just not for me. And maybe for them it's great and everything, but it's just not for me, and it wouldn't be one of my picks. It's not a gun that I've kept. It's not one that I own in my collection. But these guns here, I've picked for myself personally. I think these are the best guns that I've come across in my years of collecting and shooting, and I'll go over the reasons why I picked what I did. And the gun I would say I would put in third place would be the Tolev Pistol, the original like TT-33. I've never had a TT-30 or I think it's the Type 51. I've never had one of those. Can't say anything about those. But any of these TT-33, or like this is the like the Type 54, they seem to be just excellent firearms in every way. For me personally, like, you can see how it fits my hand just perfect, like it was just made for it, the grip and everything. And the cartridge this thing shoots, which is 7.62 by 25 millimeter, is a really hot little cartridge. Like, it's a really blazing fast little pistol round, and that kind of makes up for its lack of like high capacity magazine, because I believe it holds 8 rounds. I can pull the magazine out here, and like, that's your real simple little magazine. And the thing about again, having limited rounds like that, and the cartridge itself makes up for the limited rounds, and also the simplicity in the magazine, in the design. Like, I've never had one of these things fail. Like, these some of these guns are like a freaking 1,000 years old, and some of them had like a gazillion rounds through them. And the actual military produced ones, and some of them are questionably produced, like Romanian guns that are like bottom of the line type of thing, and they always seem to work. All of the ones that I've had personally, they always seem to work. I've never had any problem with jamming or like, bad feeding or anything like that. They're great. The drawback I would say to the pistol is that it's like it's a little bit heavy. Like, it's small, but it's a little bit heavy, and even then I don't really care, because it dampens the recoil of the round. Like, it's not a crazy recoiling round or anything, but in the steel frame helps it, and I really love steel frame pistols. But it's just like an ultimate, like, reliable gun. I've just never had it fail. The way it fits in my hand, it's like it was designed for it. And the trigger, no problem, no issue. They are a little bit inaccurate. Like, you can get pretty much like, pie plate sized groups with these things, like me personally. And I really have no problem with it, because what it is, like what it was designed for, it's just like a backup piece with, or something like commissars or officers would have. It was never designed as like a offensive combat pistol with a gazillion rounds or anything. It wasn't designed for that. And everything everything about this gun is just excellent in my opinion, or adequate enough. There's no drawbacks to it really. And I would say, in my opinion, the best of all the Tokarevs I've ever had. I just grabbed this one from my collection because I've got quite a few of them. But the best Tokarev you can get, in my opinion, is the Yugoslav ones. The ones with it has the extended grip with the extra round in the magazine, and their recoil spring is a 2-piece rod in it. And I think those are like the pinnacle of Tokarevs. And so that is my third place pick, like of all-time great firearms. And I'll mention before I get into the next one, there's no revolvers in this because I know revolvers are great, and some people are like, they're ultimately like they're the most reliable thing in the whole world because they're so simple and whatever else. And I actually I've got some good ones, and it doesn't take much for a revolver to fail because a revolver is like a watch. Like a Swiss watch is good, but it only takes a minute little thing to go wrong with it, and you can completely jam them up, and it's pretty easy to break them actually if you are kind of inexperienced, and they're not all that fun to work on. I thought I would just mention that because I know there's just like the Glock guys, there's revolver guys too that think they're the greatest in the whole world. And I'm not like a revolver, like against revolvers. I'm not a snob against them or anything. I'm just stating my experience. So the next gun that I have in here, which probably some people would disagree with me, and if anybody has any experience different than mine, you can let me know also. But this little gun here I found to be like, again, like the Tokarev, it's perfect for myself, which this gun is the CF98. It's a QBZ 92, I believe they call it, the Chinese designation. And this one is obviously the 9mm civilian gun. But I'll say, again, set up for myself, if you look at my hand, how it fits the grip perfectly. Same thing with the trigger, like where the trigger is and everything. It's just like set up perfectly for my hand. It fits me. Like it's just an excellent pistol. Other things about this gun that are good are it's very light. It's quite light. Everything is in the top that's heavy. And the one that I have the most experience with and I actually like the best is this one here, which is the original style. It's not one of the newer ones. This one's like the double stack or double feed mag, and I kind of prefer it. I have the newer version and I've shot it a few times and I haven't had any bad experiences with it, but I kind of do prefer this one. And this gun is very accurate. I found it to be accurate, and it's excellent for like for its shooting duties. And it's got like the in Canada we can only have 10 rounds, but it's originally like an 18 round magazine in here, and so it's got adequate firepower compared to any Glock or anything like that. And I've never experienced any malfunctions with this firearm. I've had one fluke round where I was using a weird ammunition with a weird crown cut on it, and it was sort of like a semi stovepipe where it got in there and got stuck, and or not stuck, but it was it didn't go fully in because it caught on the side of the edge of the barrel, which is a nothing malfunction to clear, and it was just because it was kind of bizarre ammo. But I've never had this thing jam on me. I've shot it, and I like taking it to the range to keep shooting it to see if it's ever going to fail or what. But that's just my personal experience. And this is also a double action, single action, which doesn't bother me. I'm not really big on striker fired guns, and striker fired guns have their sort of like drawbacks to them. Like sometimes the triggers feel weird. They feel spongy or plasticky, or like they're gonna snap off sometimes, and which is another thing about Glocks and that. Why guys think they're great, but I like the double action, single action, like on this gun. And this gun's trigger is like, we'll just do a safety check on it, and you can see that it's empty in there, got nothing in there, and it has a really, really super freaking light trigger on this thing. You get the take up on there, and it fires. Like it's just it's just a really great gun, and it's an overlooked gun, and you know, because it's Chinese, people kind of like would probably crap on it, but again, this is my personal experiences, and I've never had this thing fail. It's got the firepower in it. Originally, you know, it was designed for you know, higher capacity, but of course we can't have that here. So it's got the maximum capacity we can possibly have here, and again, it fits me perfectly. That's why it's, in my opinion, it's such a great gun. And it might not be for everyone, but I mean, the Chinese military, they basically went from a Tokarev, which I don't think anybody can argue with me how great the Tokarev is, and they went with this, they replaced it with this. So I figured this is probably a pretty good gun. I mean, whatever your opinions of Chinese firearms are or whatever, this is my personal experience. This would be my second place firearm. And now I'll go into my number one awesome firearm, like, of all time. So this, like, I mean, I'm sure the Glock guys would be pretty angered that I picked this thing, and they think like I guess I sort of am a 1911 fanboy, because basically, who's not? I mean, it's just a work of art, the 1911, and this is my number one pick because, like, it's just such a perfect gun. I should mention, if I didn't, the Chinese gun there, the CF98 is in 9mm, like 9mm Parabellum or 9mm NATO. And anyways, so we'll go back to the 1911. Like, this gun is just, I think it's the ultimate firearm, and there's so many reasons why, other than just it's like a piece of art, like it's such a beautiful firearm. I would say, like, you can customize these things any way you want to make them perfect. They've been making parts and stuff for these, like, you know, for probably like 60 years at least, of competition parts and everything. And like, I think every single manufacturer of firearms except for Glock has probably made a variant of 1911. Like, everyone from Smith & Wesson to obviously Colt, Remington makes them. I believe Ruger makes one. I'm not positive about Ruger. There's Sig Sauer made one, and like, there's just like, I mean, like, there's just so many. Like, why wouldn't they produce them? Like, there's so many options and variations, and everyone seems to be pretty good. But that's one of the things with these guns, is that there is so many produced that you can get some kind of crappy ones in there. In the 1980s and that, there was a lot of kind of like stinkers that came out, like the AMT guns and that, and they can kind of be questionable. Now, in my opinion, what's so great about this gun, like why I pick it, is because I like the single action of this pistol. It's no different than the Tokarev. The single action just works, and the trigger is just so perfectly tuned. And the other thing is the way it feels when you get it in your hand, again with the trigger. And the 1911 is one of these guns where you can easily swap a trigger to a longer trigger or a shorter trigger. The original trigger, almost you couldn't even almost see it come out of the frame. It was so short. But you could swap that out, and you can make it just perfect for your finger, however you want it. But when you put it in your hands, you just know what you have. It's a solid, like, steel pistol. It's just such a great feeling when you have this in your hand. And the safeties doesn't bother me. Like on this one, if it bothers you, you can pin back the safety. It's not going to harm it or anything like that. There's a million kinds of grips you can get for these, whatever feels good in your hand. And also the hammer, like, you can pull back the hammer with your like with one hand. It's not really a big deal being single action like that. They're highly accurate. I'd say it's probably one of the most accurate pistols, if not the most accurate pistol that I've ever shot. I mean, this particular one, because it's got the longer barrel, but the 45 cartridge is very, very accurate. And people criticize it like, oh, it's too big and it has like recoil or whatever to it. It's too big. Like they wouldn't want to, like, say a female shooter or somebody, a small shooter, shoot it, and that's a complete lie, because these are like steel frame pistols. They're not overly heavy, but they are steel frame pistols, and they dampen the recoil quite a bit, and it's a sluggish impulse when you shoot the 45. Like it's not like a bothersome like recoil impulse when you shoot it, and it's one of the first pistols that I've ever shot, and it was like the cartridge is not, it isn't a heavy recoiling cartridge. The other things, like, I mean, obviously your mag release, I mean, it's just in the perfect place, and you can get extended ones. The slide release, and it's a bit different because my hands are kind of small, I can't really reach it. And then you've got your other safety here that you can manipulate very easily on and off. It's not a problem. And again, the magazine, this one I just keep this Pac Mayer one. It's a little bit tight in this particular gun, but I just keep it in there because it's a really cool looking magazine. And this would be your only drawback to the gun, is that it's again one of these limited capacity pistols because of how it was designed. Part of its reliability is because of the way it has just a single stack, very simple magazine. Like that's what makes it a good gun, and it's a sign of its times. It was same theory as the Tokarev there. Like it was made for officers in. It was originally a military design, so the capacity didn't really matter a whole lot. And honestly, in 45 ACP, like, does it really matter how many rounds you have? Like, I would say if you had at least 5 rounds in 45 ACP, you're probably in a pretty good condition. I mean, like, you can see the size of that. Like, it's pretty. Like, here, I'll just take it and compare it to the Tokarev. I mean, like, I don't know, the capacity I don't think makes much of a difference when you see the difference in size. But like, you can get magazines, like, it's pretty typical to find these like flush fitting, almost, well, near flush fitting mags, and they hold an extra round. Like they'll hold 8 rounds in there. And then you have other ones that you can have a slightly extended ones, and they've got the big ugly 10-round ones also. So but I don't know why you would need that much capacity. It's just like, I know it's really rambly, but I mean, like, just everything about this gun is great. The issues that I would have with it, I mean, other than again, weight, because it's a steel frame pistol, it's going to always be a little bit heavy, but it's not like, it's not terribly thick. Like some people think that they're like, you know, really big or whatever. You look at how thick the double stack 9mm are. They're quite a bit bigger. It's like the Glock. The Glock is quite a bit bigger than a 1911. It's a lot skinnier of a pistol. And I would say other drawbacks to it are the reliability can be an issue, because again, there are some stinkers out there that aren't very good. Of course, there's the clapped out GI guns where they made so many of them and they're questionable who put parts in what. And if you get one that's like a newly manufactured gun, it should be good to go. The other thing is the magazines. Sometimes the magazines are, what comes with the gun are like designed for that gun and make it function, and you get these aftermarket magazines, and it's really the magazines that are garbage, and they won't work with your particular gun. I mean, some guns they're okay with, but others they're not, like, because it's just sort of a quality control. If you want to get good quality magazines, it should be 100% reliable. But that's really the only issue I ever see is coming from the magazines. They usually always work with, you know, just like with about any type of ammunition, and like even guns that are not like what I'm talking about is guns that aren't as highly polished as this gun is, and they seem to be like I say, they seem to be perfectly reliable with different variations of ammunition. It's just the magazines that are kind of the issue. So this is my opinion about my top 3 guns. It's like, I think the 1911 is about the perfect gun. If you don't think the basic 1911 or a crazy pimped out gun is the greatest, you can probably find a flavor of 1911 was used from anything from World War I military pistol to like current like Nighthawk custom pistols. Everybody makes them. There's Turkish copies that are actually really excellent pistols as well. I mean, there's so many out there that the 1911 is the perfect gun. And for the Glock guys that will bash the 1911 and be like, oh, that thing's old, it's junk, it's unreliable, and like, you have to figure that this thing has been around for well over 100 years. And there's guns that have been around for 100 years and are still functioning perfectly fine. And also, every single manufacturer of firearms has pretty much made a 1911 copy of their own. And so, like, if this was a bad firearm, why would everybody make a variation of it? It's just like the perfect firearm. Glocks, you can brag about them all day, and I'm not hating on Glock. I mean, some people think they're great, and they are a good gun, they function and do what they're supposed to do, but Glocks have been around since 1980. This has been around since like 1910. So, maybe in a few years we can go back and look at the Glocks and see if people are still copying Glocks and producing, Glock's still producing the same one that they came out with so many years ago. This is a kind of a long-winded ramble, but these are my favorite guns. 1911, all-time best gun ever made. The CF98, I have yet to see it fail, and for me, it fits my hand perfect. It's the gun that I want. And the Tolev, again, I've never seen one fail. So if I just had to grab something and go, it would be like one of these, probably one of these two, to be honest. But anyways, this is my pick for my top 3 handguns of all time. So thank you for watching.